I'm doing great, Simone. Thanks for having me.
In between your running your businesses and flying in the air with your trapeze, we managed to get this interview arranged. So we're going to talk a bit more about like your incredible entrepreneurial journey and what does it really take right now in this economy to pivot and scale businesses. But for ever people that don't know about you, maybe they've not read your book, can you tell us a bit more about who you are and the work that you do?
Well, definitely. I grew up in a very entrepreneurial family. My father built a large women's clothing chain, and so I used to follow him from store to store as a kid. And I thought, Simone, oh, being a business owner is easy. You just, you stop and you get ice cream and then you tell people what to do, how hard can this be? And so at 19, I started my first business and I was doing personalized poetry for birthdays and anniversaries. I was in college. And I told my dad, I'm like, Dad, I'm going to be a poet. I found my calling. And he's like, oh, Allie, that's just so awesome. But did you know poets don't really become known until they're dead? And so I was like, thanks, Dad. Thanks for the encouragement. So anyway, I moved on from being a poet and I started my first real business at 25. I had a full service advertising and public relations firm.
Yep.
And, I made a lot of mistakes in that business. I was kind of a control freak. I thought I had to do everything, even though I had a small team. And I didn't understand what scaling meant. I didn't understand what delegating really was about. And I ended up kind of crashing and burning in that business.
Were you a bit of like a control freak type of person?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah,
Kind of.
I was. I just thought that I had to do it all or my clients wouldn't be happy. And my business was running me instead of me running my business. And so that didn't last that long. I mean, after about 5 years, I was just a wreck. And I ended up moving on from that business. I had actually had a car accident from all of the stress and everything. This was many years ago.
Right.
But I look back at that time and it was such a huge wake-up call for me to say, okay, what kind of life do I want to create? And if I'm going to do this business thing, I better really figure it out.
Yeah.
So I created a formula to scale. This is over 20 years ago.
Well, I have a question actually before we go into the formula on scaling. What kind of, because I know you've worked, like knowing and following your work, I know you've worked in many different industries and you scaled and grew business in many different industries. So from that moment where you said, I want to be a poet and your dad crushed your poet dreams, what kind of businesses and industries you've been working in?
Yeah, so I went from the poetry to the advertising and public relations, and then I ended up growing a homeopathic business in my own effort of healing myself.
Right.
And I was fell in love with homeopathy, and then I ended up founding the homeopathic Academy of Southern California, where I live.
Okay.
It was a 3-year certification program. And then I built that up. I sold that. And then I built a real estate investment company, a jewelry manufacturing company, a software company, beauty salons, scuba diving certification company. So, you know,
Is there anything you haven't done?
Oh, there's plenty I haven't done. I got lots of life to live, Simone. There's so much more to experience. But now I mentor other business owners. My company, Pinnacle Global Network, which I've run for the last 10 years. And I have a team of CEOs that have run other big companies that work with me. And for the last 10 years, we've been mentoring business owners to scale all over the world. And I love it. So now instead of me going off and doing the ventures, we're helping others.
So I want to ask you in terms of the process of scaling, because you arrived at a moment where, you know, you have your offer validated, you got clients, business is going well, and now it's time to grow, it's time to scale it. What do you find are some of the most common issues that entrepreneurs are facing in that moment, in that time?
Well, there's a point where you run out of bandwidth. There's no more time, there's no more energy, and you know, there's just no more hours in the day, and you hit a ceiling. And for most people, like myself back then, you can't maintain that level of intensity, and it's not really that fun when you're working night and day. You know, it's not really why you got into business. And so it's important to learn scaling actually before you hit that point. And if you're the one that is delivering your product or service, you can't scale because, you know, there's only one of you. So there's a point where you need to replicate your process, your signature process, or your widget, whatever it is. So depending if it's a product or service. And you can scale on the team side, like I have, where I have all these other business owners that, you know, they've run successful businesses. They learn my signature process in scaling. And so I've trained them, and they are mentoring our clients. So that's one way to scale.
Yeah.
But you can also scale on the revenue side. There's many ways to do it, which this is what we teach our clients, but could be franchising, could be subscription. You can buy businesses. You can do certification. There's not just one way.
I'm sure probably you're going to talk about that on the Pivot to Scale Intensive, which everyone is listening or watching right now. You can find the link in the comments. You can find the link in the show notes. We're going to talk about this intensive 3 days online event later on, which is featuring Barbara Corcoran. Oh my God, I love Shark Tank so much. You have no idea.
Me too. She is awesome.
John Ashraf, I've been following John for many years. Incredible work. So you have really, in that intensive, you have a really heavyweight lineup. We can say that. So we're going to talk about that in a moment. But for everyone we're saying, you know, there is no one that can do things as good as well as me. Because that's sometimes the very first step. Stops businesses from scaling. I certainly had that, and sometimes I still have to catch myself in that process. What would be your best piece of advice?
You got to get your ego out of the way. It's the hardest thing is letting go, and you know, you worry about your clients, you care, you want to make sure they're taken care of. But the thing is if you think you're the only one, you're really choking the growth of your company. And, you know, it's interesting, but when you approach your clients and you say, I'm helping you, or if you say, my team and I are helping you, what sounds more supportive, right? And so they just want their questions answered. They want to feel supported. And so I used to think the same thing in several of my businesses, but honestly, like my clients are so happy now, they're not missing me. I mean, I pop in and I'm connected to our community and I love our clients but it's really, if I was the only one, I wouldn't be able to be here now. I wouldn't be able to help so many people with the work that we do. And that's the point, is that you have a gift, you have a message. Simone, you're amazing at what you do. You help all these people get on stage. You help all these people lead events and, on stage or virtual events. And if you were the only one doing it, that would be very limited.
Absolutely. Yeah. And in fact, I used to have that big time on, oh my God, like, can people do it as good as I do? And then I realized, actually, yes, they can. And they can do it even better than me. So
clearly, I mean, I'm not saying you. That didn't sound right. No, I mean, my team is smarter than me. There's a saying is that you should try to be the dumbest person in the room. So surround yourself with people that are super smart in the things that you really don't need to focus your energy on. But they love that.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. In fact, then you can serve your clients even better, because now you're not working yourself to death, and you actually have more capacity to do what you're meant to do in your business, driving the company forward, and not just serving every single client that you have. I have one more question for you, Allison, before we talk about the Pivot and Scale Intensive. I would love to know from your experience, one thing that really helped you when scaling your businesses, whether it's a type of mindset or a particular strategy. I know you have a very replicable process. Mm-hmm. So what's a part of that process that you find that it can be incredibly valuable for everyone listening?
I think that the key first, Simone, is to know that you can. So I teach 5 phases of scaling a business. And so, phase 1 is that solopreneur. I call it the seeker. Phase 2 is the pioneer. And that's where you have a couple employees and you're getting your hands dirty. You're starting to create some revenue, but you're still, you're still the one that's doing everything. Really, even though you have a team, you're approving everything. You can't scale. Phase 3, you start to build a team, but you're the boss. Phase 4, you're co-creating with your team. You're more of a leader. And so it's really that awareness, number 1, that you can scale, like you can multiply your growth, in whatever economy, even in a down economy, that's oftentimes much more opportunity to growth. There's room for negotiation, there's room for buying businesses, more opportunities and things like that. So I think seeing the landscape, because so many business owners get stuck at one level for so long, and then just saying, you know what, I could 10 times my business. I could do a $10 million company. I could do a $100 million company. You have to see it first. Yeah. You don't have to know these steps. You don't have to know how you're going to get there. But the first thing is that you have to understand that you can. Yeah. It's possible.
That's so powerful, Allison, because we can just achieve what our mind can conceive. And so if we don't even consider that as a possibility, we don't even see what's already around us or the information or the people that are necessary to help you get to that point. It's just not in our level of awareness.
Yes.
There is a question from Marcin, which I'm going to pop here on the screen, which is a question about hiring people. Who should be first to scale up?
So if you don't have any employees yet, the first ones would be get an assistant, first of all, because if you are doing clerical or administrative things or you're running errands, you're losing money. Yeah. And just pretend that your value is $5,000 an hour. Okay. Now it might not be 5,000 an hour, but let's just pretend, because I'm trying to prove a point here. If you can bring in 5,000 an hour, would you be filing papers? Would you be returning calls? Would you be running errands to the post office? No. So you need to get an assistant to take those things off your plate. Then I would for sure have a bookkeeper, definitely have a bookkeeper. And then I would get a marketing person. So somebody that it can at least take some social media off your plate, help you to start getting the word out there, booking interviews, things like that. So those would be the first ones that I would start with, so that you can really start focusing on your genius.
Yeah.
And get your message out there, build relationships, and work on strategy.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much, Allison. And I have to second that. Very first hire that we had was Wang, which is still working with us after 5.5 years. It's like she's still sticking around. Hopefully I haven't annoyed her too much over the years, but I would not be able to cope and to live without Wang. I tell her every time, because she runs a big part of my life and my business. Because she gives me the freedom to focus on things that are more that are higher level on not just the consistent nitty-gritty of the operation, and she's brilliant at giving that support. And I remember when I started GTeX, didn't have any money when we started, literally starting from scratch, and all I could pay her was 5 hours. I think I started with her 5 hours a week, then moved to 10 hours a week, then moved to 20 hours a week, then moved to full time, then moved through releasing her from the company, because we are using an outsourcing company. She's based in the Philippines, and then paying the company off so then she can work full time with us. And I would not be able to do the growth that we had without Wang. And she is a godsend.
She is wonderful. She is wonderful. She got me set up this morning. And I have Jennifer DeWitt, who's been with me for 6 years. She calls herself the multitasking ninja. But I will tell you this. I went through about 5 assistants before I found Jennifer.
Yeah.
And part of that, and I share this because, you have to get really clear about the role and the type of person that you need. And you have to get really clear on your vision, And so, there's a saying, and it sounds kind of brutal, but hire slowly, fire fast.
Yeah.
And you will know pretty quickly if somebody's the wrong fit, because they don't really fit the culture, or they don't really have the skill and the skill set. And so, I used to keep people on way too long that were not a fit. And most of my team has been with me for several years.
Yeah.
I mean, they're with me for many, many years. And so when someone comes on and it's just clearly we did not make the right decision, it's pretty glaring quickly.
Yeah.
So
I'm with you. I was really lucky with Wang, because I only had to go through one assistant before finding her. With every other hire, I had to go through few, but Wang was like, oh my God, I just found the gem.
That's so awesome. That's so awesome.
All right. So let's talk about, now that we've talked about different elements of scaling, you're running this 3-day intensive online event called Pivot and Scale. You have great guests like John Hassarath, Barbara Corcoran. You've worked very closely with the guys from the people from the Dragon's Den, from Shark Tank. Yeah, so I got things messed up from Shark Tank that endorsed your book, Scale or Fail. So tell us a bit more about the event and what is your vision about it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is a time for, what's going on in the world. People tend to retract. They retract out of fear. They retract out of uncertainty. And this is where I say, oh no, this is where you double down. This is where you innovate. You know, this is an opportunity to really shift onto the pulse of your industry.
Yeah.
And so to be creative. And so I just want to get this message out and help business owners. I'm so passionate about business owners. I know how hard you work. I know how much your business means to you. And so my team and I got together and said, okay, let's put this event on and get this out to as many business owners as we can. And so I reached out to Barbara, and Barbara had endorsed my book, Scale or Fail.
Yeah.
And so she was like, I'm all in. And I love her because she is, you know, she has made every downside an upside. She's been through, you know, hell and back and all kinds of experiences in her life. And she's so, you know, she is just, has guerrilla strategies, you know.
Yeah.
She just comes up with things that are super creative. And I think that it's important for business owners to think this way. So, so I'm excited to have her, John Asseroff, who's also a dear friend, and he is brilliant on mindset and, you know, the workings of the brain. And then we also have Michael Burnoff, which I don't know if you've met Michael, but
I haven't.
He is absolutely the expert on setting yourself up for success.
Right.
I mean, he helps you break through, you know, any barrier there is. He's also incredible with sales and neuro-linguistic programming. So, and so many other experts. It's really going to be 3 days of setting up your plan to pivot and scale, working on your mindset, and then building your team.
Yeah.
You know, in this environment. So you will leave with a plan to hit the ground running, and you'll meet business owners all over the world. It's going to be fun. It's going to be super interactive. And I think it'll be 3 days that we all really could use right now.
Absolutely, I agree with you. And you know, when you told me I'm running this this event, and you showed me the link, I was like, yeah, absolutely, we need to get it out there. It is incredible, particularly for the lineup, but also seeing the work that you have been doing for entrepreneurs since we got to know each other. It is mind-blowing, and your content is out of this chart. So I recommend everyone to get the ticket. In fact, you can find the ticket in the show notes. You can find the ticket in the comment. Was that $97 for 3 days?
$97 brings you 2 seats, Simone. So
2 seats. It's like
yeah,
40,
I mean,
40.
yeah, our events are
each.
usually 10 times that at least. And
I know your events are not cheap, so that's a great opportunity. In fact, I want to show everyone, and hopefully you can see it. I am going to talk. And you.
that camera.
I love my tech gadgets.
I know. Yeah, that's where I have the team. I kind of suck at that.
I just love my little tech geeks. I'm one of them. I'm one of them. Anyway, Allison, thank you very much for being here on the show. For everyone that has been watching or listening, make sure you get a ticket right now. This is an incredible opportunity. 3 days full of value. Will the recording be provided? Is someone can attend the 3 days, or is there an option for the recording? I didn't.
Yeah, I mean, I will tell you that we won't be giving the recording right away. You know, obviously the magic is when you are there live, but I think we probably will in about 30 days afterwards. So,
good.
So we really want you there. And I know for those of you, you know, where you're at, Simone, and over the pond, it's a little bit later. But we'll keep you entertained. We'll have you up and dancing and moving, and we'll keep you awake. Let's just say.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is so Allison is going to run as well events here. They're not definitely going to be $97, so they're going to be more expensive. But she's going to run events here in London, and also we have events planned in Amsterdam. So this is a great way to understand the content that she provides and start working on that system, which is absolutely mind-blowing. So I highly recommend you get the ticket. And if you get a ticket as well, you have a gift from me. But you got to tell me. It's not going to come automatically. You just say, hey, I bought the ticket. And then I will send you our high-converting webinar script. We made multiple six figures using the same script that works incredibly well. And this is a gift that we're going to give you as a thank you for joining this training. So that's for everyone.
That's worth the ticket alone.
That's right. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here. Thank you, Allison. And I'll see you next time for another episode of Explode Your Expert Business Show. Ciao.